last question. What's next?
Oh, well, I mean, I just started this role, so give me a week to see how it goes.
Right.
I mean, I think that for me, I really want to, as much as, there's that balance between consultant and executor. And over the last couple of years, I think I've been more on the consultant side and less on the executor side.
Right.
I'm really hoping this is the role where I can help execute and really grow and be a part of that for a sustained period.
Right.
Because, that fulfillment of really making it work is important, and also something I haven't been able to make work in the last few years in a role I've been so central in. So that's what I want.
I'm going to help explain that for you guys without giving it too much away. When he's talking about consultant, it was kind of like being an army advisor in Vietnam. And when he's saying executor, it's kind of like all of a sudden being an infantryman in Vietnam. Right now, he went from advising to getting in the trenches and rolling up the sleeves. And that's because, but this, he went from observer to an observer with, I don't mean skin in the game, but really understanding what the stakes were, and really and knowing from an objective standpoint what needed to get done. And you're advising this startup, and now you're in it, which is exciting.
It's great.
It's not that what you're not doing isn't exciting to begin with.
No, absolutely. And I mean, right now I'm in the middle of setting up my one-on-one weekly calls with the team, and I'm managing employees, and like that's a very different world than coming in and just telling people what to do without having actual responsibilities in that way. So it's a different challenge. It's a different work balance, and it's something that I haven't had in a number of years, and I'm excited to be back.
And let me ask you this, because this is also interesting. Knowing what I know about some of the people you've advised and situations you've been involved in, so going away from the negative and saying, what would you say 2 or 3, without going into 10, right? Marks of a success would be, when you say, and they may fail, but you're like, that guy or that girl is a successful entrepreneur or a successful CEO. And there are successful people who sometimes don't make it, but will eventually make it. You know what I'm saying? And for me, some of those are hustle and kind of research, things like, and then stick-to-itiveness. But what in your mind are the top 3 qualities that somebody who's expecting to enter the startup world and succeed needs to have? Because you've been advisor, you've been in it. What are those for you?
Well, you definitely have to be comfortable living in a world of ambiguity. If you come from a structured environment like a big corporation where there's a lot of bureaucracy, it's a really hard change to make. And I've seen it a number of times where people say, when you don't know what you're working on the next day because you can't, that can be really hard for people who are used to structure and planning and and metrics and knowing where you're supposed to be tomorrow. You got to deal with ambiguity. The other thing is, a second thing I think is, being innovative, absolutely. And in that, I think, is you're creating a new reality. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. Often, it's very rare that entrepreneurs truly come up with something that has never been thought of before.
Right.
It's more about creating a new reality, which is based off of your passion, your ideas, your ability to bring a team together, your ability to convince others of the merits of your new reality. You fail often because not because it wasn't a good idea, but because you weren't able to get people behind that story. So, call it storytelling, call it, leadership. It's a mix of all these things. But
Right.
I think it's creating that reality around this idea that is so central. And if you can't get people behind that reality, it's not going to move forward. Even if it's the best idea, in history. And probably that comes from conviction, ultimately. Right?
Yeah, being passionate about it.
Yeah,
Right.
It's hard to fake that. And
Right.
if you don't believe in the product, you don't believe in the idea or the team, it's all about sweat equity in the early days, and if you're not ready, it's going to be hard.
Got it. Well, that's it. If you don't have the passion, get out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Thank you.